What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into all the officially released Dead shows. This is the 1973 version. We have another new release today, Download Series Volume 8. This was released way back in 2005. It is material, but not the complete show. Most of the complete show from December 10th, 1973. It's a download series, but if you were to burn it onto CDs, it takes up 2 CDs. And I think the biggest draw about this, and there's actually a number of draws about this, especially the fact that it's just your typically incredibly well played 1973 Grateful Dead show, December 73. It's super chill, but just well played, and Jerry especially. I mean, everybody. Keith, a lot of good Keith. Keith is good in the mix. Sometimes we lose Keith for a variety of reasons, but Keith's presence is felt. But I think for me, the biggest draw was, I do not believe this show was in circulation among the tape trading community. When I bounced, which was, 20 years ago, but I think I already had like most everything that was in circulation. I don't think this show ever popped up. I think this was the first time this was heard by the masses. So that immediately is a draw. As a completist who really would love to hear every Grateful Dead show ever made, just because you don't want to miss that moment if that moment happened in a show you haven't heard. And so that immediately is a draw for this. It is not complete. We are missing 5 songs. Jack Straw, Tennessee Jed, El Paso, right? El Paso, I think was not, it was dropped. I'm thinking of the show I just did. Brown Eyed Girl, missing from the first set. They do include Big River. And I'm of the mindset that Jack Straw, Tennessee Jed, and Brown Eyed Woman are all better choices than Big River. So it's interesting that they chose that, even though maybe they did it to keep the sort of Jerry Bob kind of balance in. But then Jack is Bob, El Paso's Bob. But anyways, I'm always like, do we need more Big Rivers? There are some fantastic Big Rivers out there, but this is a pretty just straightforward Big River. And then in the second set, we're missing a Me and My Uncle. So that's it as far as what we're missing. There's a couple cool special things in here. I do believe this is the very first Peggy-O ever played. It is definitely the earliest Peggy-O officially released. But I think this is actually the very first Peggy-O ever played. That's dropped very early in the second set. And this is the first time, at least another instance, and if it happened, maybe it's not documented or maybe there's not an official release, but I do believe this is the first time Sugar Mag and Sunshine Daydream were separate, in which they were not played consecutively back to back. In the instance of this, there's a Sugar Magnolia, and then they drop as if we're going into Sunshine Daydream, but then you hear this, and we slowly get a good going down the road feeling bad. We get a full-on going down the road feeling bad. It's really interesting. It's not really a segue. Like when I saw this set list, I was like, oh, Sugar Mag going down the road feeling bad. No. It's not going into. We stop. And then going down the road just kind of emerges out of silence. Very interesting. But this is not a show, I would argue, that if your friend is new to the Grateful Dead and you want to turn them on, this is not the one. This is not your fiery, what are they doing? Jerry's losing it. The space is crazy. The tiger's coming out and roaring and making you go crazy. Like, we don't get any of those absolutely epic, crazy moments. We just get a solid, great 1973 show. 1973, I think if most of us had to rank the years of the Dead, like just instead of tours, we're just going to take years. Most people, I would say, put 73 pretty high on the list. And to be a great show in 73 says a lot, because there's a lot of great shows in 73. Trying to get that hair to stay in there so it's not just sticking out. We only get 6 shows from the first set. A really nice solid Bertha. Really nice Keith from the start. Keith's presence is like felt, which is awesome. Some nice bass. The low end on this is super thick. Phil is already kind of making his presence known. We get a little like pre-music chatter with the band talking, which is kind of cool. We don't always get that. We get a Mexicali blues. Phil just bringing it, bringing the bounce, bringing the energy, bringing that bass. Really nice, tight, focused Mexicali. We get a Deal with that. I grew up in the era where Deal was like the set closer, Jerry closing a set, the Dead closing the first set. They were fire performances. This is just really nice, slow burning mid-set energy that is just a completely different vibe. Like my deals were dun, 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 dun. This one is like just kind of slow burning, bringing it in. Jerry playing a tasty solo, very first set appropriate. We get a Big River. Band is focused, nice and tight. We get a Don't Ease Me In. I also grew up in the era where Don't Ease Me Ins were like set one closers, or sometimes we get like a weird encore of a Don't Ease Me In. I think I have memories of that. Maybe it was a nightmare I had once. I think the mid-set Don't Ease Me Ins are absolutely perfect. It's a little bit chiller. I think the vocals, like it always felt really cheesy to end a set. There was something about it that didn't work. They try to force that energy. To me, this sort of mid-set Don't Ease Me In, it's just exactly where Don't Ease Me In should be. And then we get a 20-minute playing in the band, which I will be there every day for a playing in the band. Almost immediately, Jerry switches to that sort of psych tone that he uses when he's exploring, and we're just off into really nice psych exploration land almost immediately. Keith is there. Phil and Keith are kind of pushing early, but not really. Phil isn't doing that thing where he's like, I'm going to grab the steering wheel and take us somewhere else. But his presence is like every so often, he'll just like drop this run or drop some notes that kind of nudge us this way. Jerry, of course, is off doing his own thing, but maybe responds a little bit. Keith is super tasty. It's just your well-balanced jamming where we get some nice intense bursts, and then we kind of bring it in, then we get some bursts, we bring it in, we don't go into really feedback, we don't go to crazy chaos mood, we just kind of stay straightforward and perfect. About 8 minutes in, Jerry really starts maybe pushing the envelope a little bit and getting a little more aggressive, but nobody takes that as the cue to like go completely manic. It's like, let's stay in control and let Jerry push it, and every once in a while we'll come up and support him. We get a nice little quiet section about 11 and a half in, but we don't go full space. We lower the intensity enough so that we immediately can start rebuilding the intensity, which is kind of cool. Then we get another little lull because that one doesn't quite catch fire about 3 minutes after that. And at this point, Phil's like, okay, guys, I'm taking over. I got this. So Phil kind of steps in. Jerry's like, all right, Phil's got the reins. I'm just going to get trippy. Starts doing like these trippy, almost like King Crimson-esque circular runs as like we slowly start building in towards the reprise. And as we get towards the reprise, Phil just goes big and massive and huge. Some like Smokey and the Bandit. You see the movie Smokey and the Bandit? At the very end of the movie, Burt Reynolds is like, I don't think we're going to make it. And the snowman, he's like, nah, man, they don't even know who I am. Move aside. I'm going to take over. That's Phil at the end of this. He's like, I'm going to get you to the finish line really nice and confidently and hard and heavy. Just your typically great 73 playing in the band. And that's all we get from the first set. We still have, and that is like half of disc one. Maybe, yeah, that's probably like half of disc one. We get a bunch of second set songs to close out disc two if you burn this download series to a disc. We get a Promised Land, pretty typical. Kind of, the energy in the second set's a little more laid back and feels like the energy in the first set. Like, it's a December show, it's 73. Where are we? I don't even know where we are. We're in Charlotte. It's probably pretty cold out there in North Carolina. So it's got one of those, hey, let's just play some music and warm up type vibes. We get a Promised Land. We get the first ever PEGGY-O, super chill PEGGY-O. Super chill Row Jimmy follows. Really good slide work by Jerry in this, but we just get there's a vibe. There's a chill vibe early on. And they have back-to-back Jerry songs here. I'm assuming Me and My Uncle went between those two songs. So there's no reason we could not have back-to-back Bob songs in the first set. Give me that jackstraw. All right. Then we get a Me and Bobby McGee. Chill vibes kind of continue. We're kind of like, we're not pushing the envelope too well. Big Railroad Blues closes out disc one. Always a treat. I'm always up for a Big Railroad Blues. Filligan sounds great. Jerry's vocals are pretty playful. It's like, I can never remember the lyrics when I'm trying to recreate them, but it's like the first part of each line is like, he's kind of low and deep. And then the second part, he's like going to like more of like his higher register in like a weird, fun, funky sort of way. Like it just sounds like Jerry's having a great time. And then he drops a really good solo there. Then we get, for disc two, we go into like the longer sequences. The Dead start to stretch their wings a little bit, though they don't go too far out there. We get a truck in. Fill again, really nice. A really nice peak jam where we're like, and then we build and build and build, and then we get the drop. Really nice peak jam, really nice drop. Almost immediately, we're going into the blues. We're heading off towards Nobody's Fault But Mine. So as soon as we get that peak, we're kind of downshifting into a blues jam. But it's pretty tasty. Jerry's getting some good licks in. We slide into Nobody's Fault But Mine. We got full-on vocals. Really nice middle solo. Jerry's leaning into the blues. Keith sounds absolutely fantastic. Return to vocals. We get a second solo, and things are really, really starting to get intense at this point. We got that blues energy. Jerry's bringing it. Things are starting to intensify. We finish out the song. The next song is Eyes of the World. And I was like, when I first saw this, I'm like, oh, it's a Nobody's Fault into Eyes. But Nobody's Fault kind of disintegrates and falls apart. And then we kind of have to pick up the pieces and then go off into an Eyes. Super tasty, but super chill. Like this is this is a Sunday afternoon second set, like almost like a post drums chill vibe for Eyes of the World. Like, but it just sounds perfect. The solos are pretty concise, but pretty tasty. Once we're done with the vocals, Phil steps up and kind of takes over as he normally does in an Eyes. We get some really nice. We go into the sort of like the changes, like the post vocal chord changes. We go into the Stronger Than Dirt jam that is typical for this era, and everything is just tight. It's well played. There's no real mistakes because nobody's being too aggressive and pushing the envelope. They're just hitting their cues, hitting their marks. It almost feels like basketball season. It's playoffs now when I'm filming this, 2025. It almost feels like a really well-run offense where you're just like, you're watching it, or in this case, you're listening to it, and it just sounds perfect. And it's not till later when you're like, man, they really executed that stuff incredibly well. It looks so easy, but you know it's not. And that's kind of the vibe. Like this Eyes is just like, we're in cruise control, but we're driving through some of the best scenery also ever. So we don't really need to do anything but just sit back and enjoy. Just a really, really, really tasty Eyes. The band really just takes flight here and just like, it's why we listen to the Dead. It's why I listen to the Dead for moments like this. The trucking energy, that blues jam into Nobody's Fault, and then just how they emerge in full form, Grateful Dead mode for the Eyes of the World. Eyes of the World, and then to even better that, we go into Broke Down Palace. And there was a first set Broke Down Palace, I think in the previous show, right in the middle of the first set. And I commented on how odd that felt. I grew up in the era when Broke Down Palaces were almost always encores and only encores. And there was something just very appropriate about it being an encore. This Broke Down Palace, at the end of a Truck and Nobody's Fault, Eyes of the World sequence, before a China Rider sequence, this is where Broke Down Palace belongs. It can take its time because it's in the middle of a show, but it doesn't have to like if you're in the middle of the first set and you take too much time, it seems like, okay, you could lose the audience. If you do it at the end of the encore, it almost feels like, this is what the encore needs, this really drawn out Broke Down. Most of the time it did. It worked. But this is just like, it's the perfect placement. It's got nothing to prove. It can just be sweet. Eyes of the World just delivered. Whatever comes next is probably going to deliver. It can just be Broke Down Palace. It can be sweet. It can be subtle. It can take its time. It just feels like this is exactly where Broke Down Palace belongs. Like we're killing it on disc 2. This entire sequence is just like the Dead being this sort of perfect version of the Dead. Then we get a China Cat, super subdued vibe in this intro. Again, we're just laid back tonight. There is a movie called Time Cave, or maybe it's called Time Trap, one of those. It's on Netflix. It's a local independent Austin movie. And they go into this cave, and in different parts of the cave, time moves at different rates, but you don't really know it until you enter another part and you realize, oh my God, it's 14 days have passed, but I was in there for 2 minutes. But there's a scene where you see somebody go into a slower time thing and they're moving in like slow motion, but they don't realize it because they're in the cave. That's what the China Cat feels like. It just feels like it's just taking a little bit longer. Doesn't sound lazy, doesn't sound lethargic, doesn't sound bad. It just feels like time's moving at a slower pace. I've been at shows where time moved at a really slow pace before, but in a really good way. Really tasty, feeling groovy jam. Nice. Again, hitting all their marks. We go into a rider, really strong rider. Also feels a little bit slower, but it just kind of works. The vibe is definitely a little bit restrained for the China rider, but again, the band's locked in. We get a really nice sugar mag in which Jerry's bringing some weird country funk energy is almost what it sounds like. Like it just, the tone and the way he's playing almost seems countryish, but also it's slightly funky. Not a rock and roll vibe in this one. This is not your end of the show, blow the roof off the sucker type vibe. It's, we're with this kind of low, funky, chill vibe that the show has had. We get a hard stop for Sunshine Daydream. And then out of that, it's almost like they stop Sunshine Daydream, right? They stop Sugar Mag and they're about to play Sunshine Daydream. And Jerry's like, hey, there's a going down the road feeling bad. Somebody dropped over here behind a speaker. Remember, we're going to play that. I'm going to pick it up and just start playing it. We'll just put it right here. And then they do pretty much just a standalone going down the road. Pretty chill, very tasty. We get the And We Bid You Goodnight ending. That kind of fades off with some like, you know, some like arpeggiated chords getting all like crazy finger spirally. And then boom, Bob comes in. John starts singing Sunshine Daydream. The band joins. We finish the show. And then we get a really nice Casey Jones for an encore. I don't think I've said those words very often. It's kind of slow. The groove is kind of slow, but it feels locked in. And it has a funky little groove like Little Feat funk. It reminds me of like a slow kind of Little Feat, boom, doom, doom, like that kind of slow funk, but it's the Dead doing Casey Jones. And by the end of it, I'm completely won over on this song. This is how it should be played. I don't want the steamroller ending. I want the slow funk Little Feat ending. So yeah, this is a pretty good show. Super chill, but super enjoyable. Not a bad song, not a bad performance. Bob does flub a couple vocals in Truckin', I think it is, but he quickly gets over it. It's just, if you're a Dead fan, you will enjoy this. If you're not a Dead fan, I think there are 73 shows that maybe bring a little more energy that when you listen to this, if you listen to those first, you'll appreciate this more. But yeah, great release. Good job, Download Series. All that being said, where would I rank it among all the others? I have it down all the way at number 9, which is crazy because you would think that's not a good thing, but everything above that is ridiculous because this is the Grateful Dead and this is 1973, which is one of their like can do no wrong years. I do think that Road Trips Volume 4, which is the most recent one I did, I like that playing in the band, but it's like playing El Paso, playing Wharf Rat, playing Morning Dew. I really like that sequence. Plus there's a couple other songs. Both equally great shows, but if I had to pick one I was going to listen to over the other, I'd probably go Road Trips before this, but I will happily grab this at any point and listen to it, especially that disc 2. You get the trucking sequence all the way through Broke Down. You get the China Rider after that, and then you get the Sugar Mag going. It's fantastic stuff. But yeah, I have it at number 9. Trying to justify 73 rankings. They're all fantastic. All right, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this show. Let me know if it was in circulation prior to this release, but I don't think it was. I think this was the first time we all heard it. But yeah, at least the first time I heard it, I know. I don't have this tape. I have a lot of 73 tapes. Don't have this one. But all right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do those things, and peace. Talk to you later.